Hey everyone and welcome back. In this video, we are going to look at how to approach finding the right chords for your melody and look at some harmony basics and how the choice of harmony will affect and change the melody and the emotional content in your theme. So what I have here is two very simple themes. I want to keep it fairly simple melody-wise so we can focus on the harmony and the effects of the harmony. So let's just listen to this melody before we start. And there you go. Now, as you hear, it's a super simple melody, but it has like a top point and it uses like a recurring motif, so it follows some of the structures we've been looking at in the melody chapter. Now, when we're gonna make harmony choices for this, there's a few things I want you to keep in mind and a few principles I want to briefly introduce you to. To start at the basics, this is in C major, by the way, so everything I will do in these videos will be in C major to make it as easy as possible for everyone. So when it comes to harmony, in major you have three main chords. Let's have a look at some of the main chords you can use to make harmonies for your melody. So we're working in C major, so C major is the tonic. Next we have F, the subdominant, which is the fourth step of the scale. After that, we have the G major, which is on the fifth step of the scale. And this one you can feel it's leading back to tonic again. So these ones, these are the three main chords in the major scale. And you'll find that a lot of melodies you can harmonize using only these chords. Now, let's try that here. And what you want to make sure is that you're following some of the main steps and the main notes in the melody and making sure the chords are aligning with these notes. So let's listen to some of them here. Now, this is an A. So I would most likely use a chord that includes the note A and not, for example, C. So the chord that has A in it is F major. This feels pretty good. Now let's see what we have here. We have a C. So I'll likely go back to C major. Here we have a D, and the only chord with D in it is this dominant chord, this G major. And then we have another A, so I can go back to F. So here I would likely have F, C, G, F, or something like that. So let's try using only these three main chords to create a little harmony layer for this melody. And I'm just gonna apply this violin as well and use string chords because it just sounds better. Now I'm just gonna create a bass line as well to make the harmony layer a little bit more thick and a little bit more impactful. So let's just add a little bass line. Same again, F, C, G, F. And there we go. Now we have a very basic harmony for this little melody here. And what I want to look at next is a few ways to kind of expand on this and make something a little bit more interesting. So let's just duplicate this melody and try something new. Now, as you have been reading, in addition to the 3 main chords, you also have a few additional ones which you can use to create something a little bit more interesting, and it gives you a bigger kind of toolkit to play around with different emotions and how the harmony choices you're making can affect the emotion of your melody. So let's quickly look at these other chords. So we have C major, right? Then we have F, and we have G major. Now, all of these chords, if you go 2 steps down on the scale, you will get a chord that you can use as a substitute for the original chord. For example, for C major, you can use A minor, which is 2 steps down. And A minor works as a substitute because it uses a lot of the same notes. It has both C and E. And the same goes for, say, F major. If you go 2 steps down to D, you get this chord. And same for G major. You can go down to E minor. So you have all these chords. And if this sounds confusing, let me show you how we can use these. So first of all, let's take these chords right here and use substitutions to spice up this a little bit and use a few different chords. So here we got an F major, and we got a C major here, for example. So we can try to substitute this one with an A minor. And here we got a G major, so we can try to substitute that for E minor, and then go back to F here, for example. So let's just listen to how this would sound like. Okay, so those are the basic chords. And let me just record the bass and we'll have a look at it. So here we have a different chord progression with a few different chords, and to me it sounds a little bit more interesting than the previous chord progression where we only had 3 chords to use. So let's just listen to the 2 of them and look at some differences. So here you can see I've used a few substitute chords. Here I've used D minor, and I've been using the E minor here as well as the A minor. So I've been using all three of the substitute chords, and you can feel it has a little bit more of an emotional and a little bit more sad vibe because of the extra minor chords, while in this example, we only have major chords, so it gives the theme a little bit more of a clean and happy and uplifting, hopeful vibe. While here is a little bit more emotional and, yeah, different and a little bit more interesting as well. So these are some ways that you can use substitute chords to spice up your harmonies after you've been finding the general direction, for example, with these three chords. So this is one way you can approach it. I mean, eventually as you get more experience, you can just go straight to playing around with chords directly and not really think about it too much. But in the beginning, you might find, especially if you don't have a musical background with music theory or playing instruments or playing piano, you might want to approach it like a little bit more step by step, finding the common notes in the melody and the chords, and then start to use substitute chords to make it a little bit more interesting. Another thing we can look at is adding some more movement to your harmonies. And this is what I did in the second one as well with more chords. Here we only have 4 chord changes for each part of the main motif, each repetition. But here you can see that as the motifs are starting, I am sometimes adding a little chord change here. So let's listen to the effect of that. And so these kind of chord changes can add a little extra touch to your theme and make it a little bit more interesting. The same thing I did over here. So this is another way that you can spice up your harmonies a little bit more and explore different territories and new solutions for your melody. Now, let's look at this little melody and look at how I would approach harmonizing this. So let's listen to it first. Alright, so this is the information I have. Now, I know it's in C major, but which chords to choose is something I will have to look at the melody to figure out. So here I have an A. And as I know, the only chords that use A in the key of C major is F major. It is A minor itself, or the D minor one. Those are the only 3 chords, so those would be usually my first choice. So in this case, I think I'll go for F major. And here I have a C. So I could go for C major, I could go for A minor, or I could go for F major. Now in this case, I think I'll try A minor, for example, here. And here we have a D. So I could use D minor, I could use G major, the dominant chord. And that's pretty much it. I could also use, like for example, an E minor 7th. But that's something for a later video. Let's try to just use these main chords first. And see how we can spice it up. Let's have a listen. Now that's a very simple way to harmonize this melody. And let's just add a bass line as well. Now let's try a little different approach. Make something a little bit more interesting. Let's delete this and try again. And let's create a bass line. Now let's listen to these one more time and notice how the chord changes will affect the emotional character of the melody. So that's a basic introduction to picking the right chords for your melodies and the fundamentals of harmony. And I hope this is a little bit helpful for those who don't have a background with playing instruments or music theory. And I hope it can be some helpful tips in how to approach harmony as a beginner. Let's dive deeper into the world of harmony, and I'll see you guys in the next video.